I have the comment box over here. Please let me know if you have a question or something when I walk through. Okay? All right, so here's your text set unit. And this is the template you're using. Now, when we go through the template, let's do standards first. So you saw some of me going through the lesson with Veronica. And so let me show you how I do mine. Currently, I am working on a World War II. Well, in the past, I was working on World War II unit. And we follow a pacing guide where I teach. And so I have to have certain, and see right here, it tells you informational standards. Oh, yeah. Okay, Lachey, good question. You're going to do, there's no way that you're going to be able to do this text set on TaskStream in the format that they have. So we do the TaskStream, you do the lesson text set unit on this template. And then when we start building lessons, I have a lesson plan template for you. And then once you get my approval, then you go in and you put it into TaskStream. Here's why it's so hard to go back and make corrections in TaskStream from what I understand and what I've tried myself. Are we all in agreement? Is that difficult? You all feel the same way? But if you do it on a template, yeah. So if you do everything on a template and then you get my approval, then you go in and you start putting into TaskStream. Right. And so that's why I have a template for your text set and I have a template for your lesson plan. That way, any changes you may have to make, you can make those and then actually go and upload to TaskStream. So don't stress about TaskStream yet. Let's stress about the template. So write everything, and everything you can delete. So what do I have to start on? Well, we'll use Veronica's example. If I had to start on the tone, then I'm just going to simply go in here and put in my standard for 6-3. And I'm going to write this standard out. So you need to go and write it out. But I also need a social studies standard to focus on. So if I pull up my scaffolding document, I cannot type today. Let's see. Pull up my scaffolding documents. Here, I have that, but I also need my social studies standards. My internet says slow, and so we're going to do Mississippi social, and I just had those up. I don't know why I left them. Y'all, it's been a day. I had a fight at school. Isn't that nice? Did I just scare anybody? The audience is silent. Mississippi studies. Okay, good question. No, do not use the students' textbooks as a mentor text. No. I understand, Veronica. Oh, okay. I like the book, So You Want to Be President. We can go with president. I wouldn't consider that a mentor text. Then let me tell you why we're moving away from textbooks. I'm going to eventually get to 6th grade. You want to move away from textbooks because one day you're going to be in a classroom where you don't have a reading textbook. So you're going to have to be creative. I've been placed in a situation where I've just been given a classroom and told to teach. Not a single book, not a teacher's edition. So got to be prepared. Okay? And this type of lesson planning, I'm making you totally independent where you don't need a single textbook. Because textbooks are not primary source documents, not secondary source documents. They're tertiary documents. And so the accounts that are given, especially when we're talking about social studies and history, the accounts that are given are often altered and changed to lead a culture to believe in certain things. So you want to move away from a textbook. All right, so when we talk about my standards, I am looking at the Japanese encampment during World War II. And so that's what I'm really focused on. And I'm going to pull in my standards because I have to teach this standard here. And so when I go to find my World War II standards, it goes under civil rights standard. And so there are so many that I can pull in. Analyze political and social impacts of civil rights movement. And that's not the movement that I'm focusing on. However, World War II was a catalyst for the civil rights movement. But then we also talk about explain and analyze the current state of civil and human rights for all people. Dakota, I have your text and we'll talk about that one in just a minute, okay? So we have that one, but this one is the one that I like here, this standard. When we talk about explaining conflict, cooperation, and interdependence, and we're talking about diversity among groups and societies. So this is the standard that I'm focused on. And so I'm going to do social studies 6, and it's standard 6E. Point E. And so I know that I need to write this standard out. Okay? When I get over here, I can still focus on the same standards. So that can just go over here and I can go in and write the standard out. When I get over here, oh, I told you all the wrong standard. It's not 6.3, it's 6.4. I'm thinking of 3rd grade. Bless it today. Since 6.4 is a vocabulary standard, I can still use this one. Now, if I decided not to do 6.4 here, let's say I did central idea, which is 6.2. Well, then I would need to use 6.4 here or one of the other vocabulary or word standards. But then here I need a writing standard. Okay? Now for here I need the writing standard, and so I need to look at my writing scaffolding. When I look at my writing scaffolding, I actually want my students to, instead of me going down, I'm going to the writing scaffolding. I want them to write a news report on the events as they were in that day during the World War II period. So I know that's standard 6.2 where they're writing informational text. And so I'm going to say W 6.2, and of course I'm going to write this standard out, but then I keep this standard because that's my social studies standard. Another standard that I like to focus on in 6th grade is evidence. So don't tell me something, don't answer a question, don't tell me anything unless you can cite evidence behind it. So I always pull out the evidence standard, which is 6.1. It is very important, and this also goes with the inferencing standard. Like the students have to infer. And so when you're trying to cite evidence or you're trying to make inferences about the decisions you've made when you speak out in the group or when you write or when you comprehend, that's all in your 6.1 standard. Okay, everybody good on standards? All right. It's okay, Ren. Tell me about standards. Like, are you lost on how to choose your standards? Yes, you put the standards all the way across. I would make it easy. Now, here's the thing, Lachey. If your teacher, say your teacher wants you to focus on central idea, which is standard 2, well, then your first lesson and your second lesson will be on central idea. But this third lesson is a vocabulary lesson. So I wouldn't put central idea lesson in here. I wouldn't put 6.2 or the anchor standard 2. I would focus on vocabulary. And this is a writing standard. So I wouldn't focus on my central idea standard. I would focus on a writing standard. Okay? Did that help you, Lachey? Okay. Now, Ren, tell me here how I can help you. And while you're typing, I'm going to go ahead and move on. And then I'll come back. So here, this is very, very easy. After this unit, the students will be able to independently, good night, independently use their learning to, y'all look, go here. Remember 6.4 is my standard? I would choose my objectives, this right here. This would actually be one or multiple of these. These are the understandings after they work on this. I wouldn't do all of these. Okay? Like for me, I would say my author's purposeful choice of words. That would be one. Wait, what side are you talking about, Amber? The one with the scaffolding documents? Because those I've put in your module folder. I don't remember which one. I have to go back and look. But that's in a module folder. And if you want me to copy it to this folder, I will. Will that help you? Yes, you're basically building one big lesson plan. No, you won't use all the same standards. It worked out that I would do citing evidence for all standards because my students have to cite evidence. Maybe not this one, especially if they're writing a narrative, so I can actually take that one. Well, for me, they're not writing a narrative. They're writing a piece of informational text. So they're going to have to use information from the past because they're writing in the perspective of a Japanese American. But if you're writing a narrative, like in Veronica's case, then I wouldn't do standard 6 or anchor standard 1 here. I would limit it to 3. You may not have 3. You could easily have 2. One's going to be your RI standard. One's going to be your social studies or science standard. So you're either going to have 2 to 3. I wouldn't get more than 3 at all. But remember, I'm 6th grade. So Amber, what grade are you teaching? Ren, I know you're 6. 3rd. And so Amber, I would almost stick with 2 standards, an RI standard and a social studies standard. And remember, if I haven't taught my students how to cite evidence or infer, well, this doesn't need to be a standard that I need to teach because this right here is really the standard that I'm working on. This is more of a supplemental standard where they have to pull in to cite evidence. Does that make sense? Ren, you good? Everybody else, we good? Okay. And so when we talk about the accomplishments, y'all, this is think outside the box. Become college students. Like, If I'm talking about them using words, then and talking about the tone, well, then they could be able to use that in their professions outside. So this is more of a, after you look here, then how could they use this in their college and career lives and what you're currently in? And you'll have more information here to put here. Okay. I've already given you understandings, and we've already talked about essential questions. So is everyone good on understandings and essential questions? Do we understand what to do there? I was making some notes. A few things, and I'm going to put this up tonight. I'm going to talk about the understandings. Here's an understanding. Good readers determine the main idea of a text. Okay, good. When we talk about understandings and essential questions, yes, these are going to be the same throughout. From a lesson that we can apply. Yes. And so I'm trying to give you an example here, and then I'll put this up on the course. But it says, good readers determine the main idea of the text and infer information about a text. That's an understanding. That's an example of an understanding. So that's based on Standard 2 and Standard 1. And historians look across multiple documents to come to an understanding about a historical event. That's an understanding. Here's some essential questions that I have, because this was a unit that I was building for Titanic. What happened to Titanic? Why was it called the Ship of Dreams? And how many people died? Those are essential questions. Like, they need to know that. I would keep your list very short. Doesn't need to be like 10 or 20. 5 the max. I like overarching questions. So the reason I included how many people died, I wanted to show you tonight that this question is not a very good essential question. And so here, since you're here on and you can view the video, when we talk about this question, we want to have more overarching questions. So we said, why was it called the Ship of Dreams? That's a very important one. And so what was the impact of the deaths from the Titanic tragedy? Okay, now how did we changing like how many people died to change into this question? How do you think that actually changed the thought process of the students? What was the change in thought process of the students? If I have this now as the essential question from what I originally had. Anybody? Any ideas? Oh, I'm sorry the screen's blurry. So I changed the essential question, maybe. No, that's it. Is it blurry for everybody? I would hope not. Okay. What about anybody else? So I actually had the question. Okay. I actually had the question, how many people died? And I changed that question to, because that's just a number question, like you can give me a total. So I changed the question from how many people died to what was the impact of the deaths from the Titanic tragedy. Now, instead of asking a number, I'm asking what was the impact. How is this type of questioning, how does this change your students' thoughts? Good, Amber. That's right. It allows for discussion. It's more open-ended. And are they going to have to cite evidence when they begin building this type of discussion? They're going to have to cite evidence. They're going to have to give inferences. And they're going to refer back. So this now becomes more of a correct answer question to more of an argument type question. Okay. So that should help you with essential questions and understandings. Now here, knowledge and skills. When we talk about knowledge and skills, just refer back to your scaffolding documents. Here's the knowledge, that conceptual understanding, that knowledge. Here's that evidence. That evidence of knowledge is here. And the skills are, what are they going to be able to do? And those you just pull out. Like knowledge would be what a word means in a given context. And then here, what is a skill? They're going to have to closely read. So when we talk about understandings and acquisitions, they kind of intermingle. So follow these questions and these prompts that I've given you here, and it will help you. I promise. This is the hardest part, I think, is stage 1. Thinking through this. Just use your scaffolding documents, think through it, and move on. Okay? And it's okay, I promise, if not right, I'll tell you. Yes, a lot of this is pulled from the scaffolding documents. Yes. Okay. You are all trying to find text, so let's skip all of this fun stuff, and we'll go to the text. Right. Scaffolding documents are your friends. You're all pulling text, and that's great, and I love it. So here, you're going to actually give me your APA reference. And if you don't know how to do APA, please go back to, I think I gave you the APA information in the module 1, and I'll try to repeat it in this module. Make a note. APA, and I'll put scaffolding. And I'll put the science and the social studies standards in this document too. Citation Machine is very good. And then, of course, OWL Purdue is very good. And I'm not a stickler on if it's not right to the T, okay? Here's what I want it to be right. This is your rationale. Very important. Your first text is your mentor text. Then you have 3 other texts. Now, text can be a picture. A text can be an oral piece of text, like an oral speech, an article. And so the APA citation may be difficult for you to do. So I would rely on OWL Purdue to help you figure out how to do the citation for APA for those references. And of course, Citation Machine can also help you on that. But let's look here. Some of your mentor texts will not have an award name because they're off of the recommended list. And so you're going to tell whether it has an award name or a recommended list. And you've got to give me a very detailed understanding of the text, like age, the text, ability level, the interest level. Let's see. Grade level, Lexile level. Like I'm looking for those things. Lexile level is the most important. Lexile level is the most important. That's the one that I'm looking for. And then give me a synopsis of about 200 words of a description of the why you're using the book. So basically tell me, what is the book about and why is it important in this unit? So to bring back Veronica's informational text, her mentor text about the thesaurus, I have never read that book. And so this is my way of knowing, okay, what is the book about and why is it important for this unit? So that way I know if this is going to be a very good book for the unit or not. Same with any other of the sources here. I would stick to 5 because remember, you're going to have 4 lessons. So going over 5 texts may be difficult. So I try to stick to the 5. Okay? And don't forget to refer back to the text set directions on where you should be pulling those supplemental text. Are we good on this section? Text selection rationale. In your course, I have a recommended list. I have several recommended lists. All right, so I'll show you what I have shown everyone. This is what I like. Informational, award-winning books. And there are tons of them out there. And you're just going to like, this is a very popular one. All right, very good question. So let me pull our discussion back over. If you go into your modules, and I'm not in student view, so if you go to your modules, and where we've talked about diverse text, go into diverse text, and you see I've given you several supporting documents, and Appendix B is a great document because Appendix B gives you more of general content areas. So let me show you what I mean. Veronica, you are 3rd grade. You want to stay away with, stay away from stories. Stay away from the poetry as your mentor text. But then here's some informational text. And so these informational texts, like you have read aloud informational text, which would be really, really good, like the story of Ruby Bridges. Very good. That's something you can use instead of Martin Luther King. Ruby Bridges would be a good one for you to use. This is a great piece, but stick with the informational text for your mentor text. So if you can't find an award text, go to informational text. That doesn't mean that you can't pull poetry and other text as supplemental text. Make sense? So there's that document. Ren, your book is awesome about the bomb, the race to build. Yes, that's a good book, and I sent you the information in the email about that one. So, all right, so let's kind of back up. Did I answer the questions on where to find text? Because Lachey had that question. Amber had that question. Dakota and Ren and I have been talking about that question too. So are we comfortable with where to find a text? Yes, any text. Now, of course, it needs to be in your grade band. Okay? Yeah, you can use a picture book for World War II. I do it. You can use an article from your other text. It does not have to be a book. A picture is a text. It's there are multiple modes of text, which are called multimodal text. And so a picture, a speech, it can be an article. It doesn't have to be a book at all. Your mentor text, you need to actually, it needs to be a book. Okay? Will it be a chapter book? Probably not. If it's a chapter book, that doesn't need to be in a literature book. It needs to be an informational book. And those are different. Okay? But if you choose a longer book, you're not going to read the whole book. You're going to read selected pieces from it. So in Bomb is a pretty lengthy book. I would only pick a certain portion of Bomb. That's what I've done. Pick a certain portion of Bomb to highlight on and then go from there. Okay? And while we're on this page, Ren, this thought came to my mind as I was going through this. This will be a great book for you if you're focusing on the Bomb. Because you could definitely go into cause and effect. Okay, so Lachey, you can use those videos if you want to get the students interested. I would not put that video within your instruction. I would put it in your hook or your closer. All right? Just because when you get to a district that doesn't have that resource, or I know it's a free resource, but they may not allow it. I want you to be ready, but I think those are cute. I used to use vocabulary in 4th grade, so I understand what you're talking about. I'm familiar with the website. Oh, okay. Amber, when you're talking about Charlotte's Web, could you not do a study on spiders? Could you not take a science standard and work on spiders? Just a thought. Just a thought. Could spiders be a topic? Yes, and so if you pull up, and I'll put these up there, Mississippi Science Standards. We'll go to the science. These are being piloted right now. This is the final approval. But these are for 2018, so I'd stick with these standards here. Let's see. I'll put these on in the module this week. For this week, module 5. And then you can go through here and pull the standards that you need. What grade again? Amber, 3rd, right? Did I miss that? Okay. So 3rd grade is 29. And that is going to be in life science. Okay, illustrate how the adult animal looks. Oh, this could be cool. You could use this one. Recall how organisms can survive when in environments. Because Charlotte's an environment. And you can do the pig as well. And you can compare and contrast the two. So you would want to find an informational text on a pig or informational text on a spider. On spiders. Spiders would be more interesting, I think, for the kids. So just a thought. So let's look at spiders. Let's search up spiders in this one. Nothing on here, but you could probably find something, Amber. Let's see, Ren. Ren, it would be cool if you could pull up a video, a very short video on what is World War II. And there's some stuff on that website that I sent you that might be helpful. That would be a really good hook to give them some information. Okay. Text. Let's do award-winning. Don't do you read works. Okay, what is primary LP? Ren, what is primary LP? It's late tonight. I'm sorry. Oh. Yeah, I mean, if you're a social studies teacher, I mean, Miss Hollis, if she's good with that, I wouldn't see why not. That's between, I mean, if she approves that, that's fine. This one says, let's look for more details. Oh yeah, this one won an award on spiders. Ooh. So let's go down. Oh, this is Goodreads. This is on Amazon. So check that one out, Amber, okay? That'd be pretty cool. All right. No problem. So back to where we were. All right, we're good on text rationales. So now let's go to stage 2, which is the evidence. And when we talk about evidence, what do you want them to do? Formative, 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 formative in each lesson. This right here, you will not do in your lesson plan. For example, some of my formatives say students will comprehend informational text during a summative assessment on a given day. And the date may be several weeks away because we want to test their comprehension abilities. And you've already had a class on assessment, correct? From what I understand from the course layout. Is that right? Yes? No? Uncomfortable? Okay, so let me show you how you can pull your performance task from this. Okay, so let me show you how you can pull your performance task here from your lessons. Okay. Go to your text set directions, and let me show you mine. Maybe. Here we go. And when we go to your text set directions, of course it gives you all of this stuff right here. But then it gives you a breakdown. And this is where it gets so easy that it's complicated. Here is your objective. Well, your objective comes from your standard. Okay? Your objective is going to be observable. And I've given you some definitions, like some verbs for that. For example, if I wanted my students to focus on tone, then I would say students will analyze words used by an author to critique the author's tone. because I don't like the word understand in any of it. To critique the author's tone. And so there's analyze and there's critique. I don't want to see any of the understand because you can't see understanding. But you can see if a student can analyze and you can see if a student can critique. Does it make sense there? So when you write your standard, your objectives, write them using observable verbs. And I've given you an example of an objective. I do not want to see an accuracy rate. This is not math. We do not work on accuracy. Objectives here are very generic and can be done anywhere. So think about that. Look here. Students can describe the main idea of an informational text with accuracy. Don't put 80% accuracy, just with accuracy. Another word that I like to use is with proficiency. So you can use that word as well, okay? When you get ready to do your social studies objective, you would do the same type of objective, okay? So that's how we actually bring in our objectives here. There's your ELA, there's your science. When we talk about the literacy skill, this is where you're going to bring your Buell text. So you're going to use, in the first lesson, one of these lesson strategies here. KWL, double entry diary, anticipatory guide. I cannot talk today. And then your magnet summary. That's going to be here. You're going to put one of those four right here under literacy strategy. Then you're going to say, okay, what skill is this? Well, if you go to the Buell text, let's say you're doing KWL. Well, a KWL will help you determine the meaning, determine the main idea and determine importance. Well, that's all on the Buell text. So go look in the Buell text to understand what is the literacy skill. And here for the summary, just give me a summary of how you're going to teach. Like, how are you going to model? How are you going to guide? How are you going to collaborate? How are the students going to collaborate? And how are they going to work independently? And this is all based on the gradual release of responsibility. Very brief summary here. Okay. Mentor text goes here. Your supplemental texts go here. And these are only going to be the texts that you use. And if you don't use a supplemental text here, it's okay. It's your first lesson. Okay. Here, disciplinary lesson, everything stays the same, but if you're teaching a social studies topic, then you're choosing these strategies. If you choose the history change frame or the memory bubble, well, you're working on one of these three skills. If you're using the eyewitness chart, that's another skill. And then you have your different perspectives for reading. And that's another skill. And these I'll actually add a folder now that we've discussed into the module where you can pull from. Okay? So some of these come from Buell, some of these don't. And then you have a science topic. The overview, you have predict, observe, explain here. And here are the skills. Okay? So just kind of use this document. And the strategies here are found in Buell, and I'm going to put a literacy folder within this module. Okay? Same thing for lesson 3. Here's the only difference in lesson 3. What are the tier 2 words? And tier 2 words are words that you can find in any discipline. Tier 3 words are discipline specific. So if Amber uses spiders, well, arachnid is discipline specific, so it would be a tier 3 word. Whereas we talk about a web can mean have several different meanings. That's a tier 2 word. So that's an example. And then when we talk about your vocabulary, strategy, and skill, you're going to choose one of these 4 strategies from the Buell text. Read the Buell's text, so you're going to read Vocabulary Overview Guide to see if that strategy will help you teach that objective, and so you can list the literacy skill here. And then when we talk about lesson 4 the same way. You're going to use one of these 3 strategies, read the strategy, and list the skill. Okay? All right. Let's say that you use a double entry diary for lesson 1. When we talk about assessment, well, your assessment is going to be a double entry diary. When we talk about a history bubble, a memory bubble, well, your assessment for lesson 2, your students should independently create a history memory bubble. When we talk about lesson 3, they should independently be able to create a Frayer model or be able to write about a word based on their use of the Frayer model. So you can play around with that one. And then here, your assessment would be written conversations like I do in the class. I can assess those. You go in and you're writing in your blogs, and I can assess those written conversations. So that's a good example of just a formative assessment. You're not going to do a unit assessment in the classroom. However, the students will eventually have to take a reading test in the class. You could put the students will comprehend informational text on a letter assessment date. So that's something you could put there. Okay? All right. So I've given you a very condensed, quick how-to. Don't forget you have the rubric. So there's that. We'll try to give you something else. I'm going to provide this as well where we have some vocabulary lessons. This is just some helpful websites for your vocabulary lessons on where to find tier 2 words. And then I'm going to provide this site. And then your examples that I've provided for you, have they been helpful? Like on the unit, and these by no means are the best examples. Okay? By no means are these the best. But this kind of just shows you what they've done and how it looks. Okay, so they will, okay. Lachey, when you talk about, give you example of, or was that an earlier question? Oh, example of assessment, sorry, and an objective. Okay, and I have that on this sheet here. And so I have an example of objectives, and I'm going to place this in the module this week. Okay? All right. Are we feeling more comfortable with doing a text set? All right, Amber says yes. All right. Lachey. All right. What do you mean, Lachey? And y'all, by all means, if you want to speak, you can go ahead and speak. Yes, Dakota, this is a learning process. It's so new for everybody, but I promise it will be so helpful when you can design your own lesson without a textbook. Okay, so math is another creature of its own. When we talk about objective in math, activity in math, it's different. And so just know that I cannot help you with math, even though I can teach math. Math class is just not something that I can help you with, and it's different than math. So no, this is not a math lesson. And objectives are different. The learning's different. And so yeah, it's different. Math is a different thought process. Okay, Lachey, I'm sorry. I know that probably didn't help you. So when you do my text set, get out of math world. Stay in my world, okay? ELA world. I don't know if that helps you or not. Okay. Okay. I hope so. Okay. Anyone else? All right. I'm going to stop the recording. It's okay if you're not finished.